Hello, everybody. There's a lot of people. Welcome to Make, to this beautiful office, and thank you for coming. We didn't know how many people will come, how many people will be interested in this topic. So it's good that you came, even based on the poll that we put that you can see on the screen. I urge you to open Slido. There will be opportunity to ask questions. So you can participate in the poll. You can ask questions if you join. And so far, based on the poll, you are here because of the interesting topic and to learn something new. As we sadly regret, you didn't come because of the amazing speakers. Hopefully, we will change that during the evening. So to kick it off, I don't want to talk for too long. I would like to introduce our panelists. And the format of the evening, we prepared. I think that are like gazillion topics we can cover today. That's why we prepared, and we have a short list of 5 topics that we would like to cover, and we will keep it free. So anytime you feel there is a question you want to ask, use Slido. I have this tablet here. I'll be monitoring the questions, and even though we will have like proper Q&A at the end, whenever I feel the question is relevant to what we are discussing, I will use it. So be interactive, work with us. And with that, I'm going to introduce the panelists and I'm going to ask some warm-up questions. So let's start from, the left. We have David Pavlik, the group CTO of Rohlik Group, right? Rohlik. That's the right name. We have Jakub Karlubec, who is the Director of Engineering here at Make. And we have Georgi Marchuk, who is, what is your job title again?
Core Platform.
Yeah, this is very fun. This is very funny. I will get to it. His actually title is Core Platform Member, but he's actually Senior Software Engineer. I think it will fit really, really well into this discussion. And my name is Tomáš Řehoř. I'm currently the CTO at Mailstep. So before we kick off the discussion here, I want to ask you. We want to understand who is here and who should we kind of aim the answers for. So who here is actually senior software engineer? Please raise hands.
Or above, right?
Or above. Still in IC role. Who is software engineer, but let's say aspiring senior engineer. So junior, mid-level, whatever you call it. Okay. And who here is like engineering manager or CTO, whatever role back in engineering management. All right, thank you. And since I don't have the diff, who here is who hasn't raised hand yet? All right. So I think it's a pretty good audience, and let's get started. I would the first topic I would like to kind of set the level, since I've worked in many different companies, and each different company, the level or the bar for senior software engineer was a little bit different. So I'm curious, how is it in your current roles? How do you define senior software engineer? Do you have formal criteria, your personal informal criteria? How does it work? Maybe Davide, do you want to start?
We don't have necessarily what I would call formal criteria per se. What we want to focus on is the impact the senior software engineer is making, and the impact can be made in multiple ways. It can be well-designed code and well-written code that's really scalable and working for a specific feature or a product. It can be also being a partner to the product manager or to business owner of specific application, and really be able to support them and figure out how to scope and how to develop the specific feature. And the influence can be also, as a senior software engineer, that you are helping to grow your colleagues, you are helping to grow engineering standards within your domain. So we are trying to evaluate and consider multiple aspects when we are doing, for example, talent review or performance reviews, and really identifies those people that are excelling in the areas that are really important for the future growth of the company, and we can also see they are making huge impact. So I would say more on the more complex evaluation rather than checklist that, oh, now you are a senior software engineer.
So since it's more complex, do you have maybe some anecdote or example of people who wanted to get promoted, who reviewed either personally or through your colleagues, and you decided, no, you didn't make the cut yet?
Unfortunately, I didn't have that experience in my current role recently, but when we are having the discussions or when we are discussing the promotions, one of my first questions when I'm talking to their managers or leaders is like, if you can give me specific examples of the deliveries that has some tangible goals when they made an impact, and then we can compare and calibrate. I know it's necessarily like a precise rocket science that some people might be looking for, but I believe sharing those examples and sharing or making it visible that hey, this one of your colleagues made this impact, and now he got promoted. I guess it's much more valuable also for the team to see what kind of examples this means to become senior.
Okay, thank you. Jakube, how is it at Make?
So for Make, the timing is perfect because we just introduced the new career framework, right? So I have it very well ingrained in my head, these kind of formal requirements. Yeah, I would agree with what David said. In addition, there are a couple of other things that we call out that would be the expectations for senior. For example, what might be interesting is that we say that seniors should deliver projects that are important, at least for the team they are in, right? So they shouldn't work on, let's say, insignificant projects, but the project should have importance. And that with this, we are trying to say that the senior should be aware of the surroundings and understand what is important and what will deliver the real impact. Maybe other thing is that we want seniors to be great collaborators. So we don't, apart from impact and technical skills and such, we look at how they deliver it, right? So they need to collaborate well. They need to be role models. They need to enhance others, not shut down their ideas. I could use some impolite words to describe the opposite of what I mean. Yeah, but they need to be good team players, let's say.
Okay, and as part of this career model, do you work with at least some idea how much time they should spend on coding, how much time they should spend on other activities?
No, that's not part of the framework. And in general, we quite de-emphasize the requirements on hard skills or the expertise in general in the career framework. We emphasize the impact, right, and how they influence others. And the hard skills should be just the means of how they achieve the impact.
Okay, but still at the end, there is some reality. So if you look away from the framework at the actual people, in your experience or just high level, how much time do you think they are spending writing code versus others?
Yeah, it's going to differ a lot based on the kind of types of seniors, but I would say like 50% and above.
Okay.
Without measuring it, it's kind of like a gut feeling or a guess.
Okay. Maybe back to Davide, is it similar at Rohlik?
And the question was, what's the percentage?
Percentage of time spending writing code?
That's a great question. I would say we are pretty heavy on writing code to actually spend more time on the actual development, and I would say I'm also receiving feedback from the other side of the company, the product part, that we are not spending enough time to really diving deep into the problems, and I believe finding the right balance for each company, that's the holy grail that you should be looking for. What should be the balance between coding and really figuring out the problem solution?
Georgi, maybe I will ask from the last question. In your case, you are actually right now individual contributor in the role of senior software engineer, even your job title is not so. How much time do you spend writing code?
I would just start with the career framework sounds very familiar. So I wonder how much is copy paste from Pipedrive, where we work together. But
Better.
no, I don't think there's a correct answer for like how much time you should spend coding. I think it really depends on person.
That's why I'm asking you as a person.
Yeah, I don't know. It can be 50%, it can be 80%, it can be 100%. It really depends on what you like to do and what you're good at. So, like for someone, it can be understanding the users, going through metrics, maybe stuff like that. For someone else, it's like just coding, hard code coding, because you know how to do backend stuff or something in that sense. But yeah, I don't think there is a correct answer for like how much time you should spend coding, and even 10% is good.
If I may add to it, as we are here discussing what would it take to be a senior software engineer in 2025 or in the future, I believe we'll need to ask the questions where the senior software engineers will be adding value, and I believe it will fundamentally change. And I recently spent quite some time talking to my friends from Silicon Valley and also reading some research papers, and the theory is that in the future, and I would be really excited about that future, that the product team can actually prototype up to 70% of semi-working solution, and the senior software engineer will really polish it, make it scalable, make sure it's deployable, make sure that it's actually integrates, it's testable, and I believe that would be a really, really cool future if we can accelerate the whole development this way and really use our senior software engineers for really fine-tuning these concepts and let the creator, the originators of the ideas, to really build up to kind of almost working model.
Yeah, I think that's really interesting because a lot of people from 11 Labs, they're from Palantir. I'm not sure if you heard about the company; it's pretty successful. But
Maybe actually you can spend some time on introducing 11 Labs.
Yeah, it's a company that was founded about 2 years ago. We're focusing on audio AI in any sense. So we started with speech synthesis, and now it's going more into conversational agents. So you can speak to AI. It's going to do stuff for you. It's going to do whatever you want. Check out the website. It's really interesting. Anyone can set it up in minutes. Yeah, the point I was making is the Palantir is basically focused on this setup where you have two types of engineers. One is forward deployed developer, I believe. Yeah, and then there's the product developer, right? And the forward deployed developer is basically working with the company, solving the solutions or like creating solutions
with the customer, right?
Yeah, with the customer, creating solutions for them, and like building MVPs, solving the actual problem. And then there's the second type of engineer who takes that and makes it a product that you can kind of reuse for other companies as well.
So, maybe from this perspective, it's perfectly in line what I was thinking, to enable the senior software engineers or any engineers to really transform, to be closer to the customer and really solve the problems on the spot, and then let the rest of the team figure out how to make it scalable.
Yeah. I'm happy that we are moving forward to the future of software engineers, but I want to pause on your lack of senior engineer job title. So maybe can you elaborate on how is your team organized without such labels?
Right. So yeah, with us, we don't have any labels, basically, or as you said, labels or positions or anything like that. I'm part of core platform team, and my job is to basically make core platform better. And we remove the titles because it just doesn't fit with the truth. Like whatever is it that you need to do to improve it, you do it, right? That means you're improving models, so you need good training data set. So you go and do that. If you need to figure out some abusers or something like that, which is like, I don't know, product analytics kind of thing, then you do that. And really, like the part that is interesting is I'm a software engineer, so a lot of stuff is like I have superpowers. I can use code to like automate and make my job easier. But other than that, you just do whatever you need to do.
I like kind of this comparison. So it's kind of generational shift. That's what we are trying to cover here. Like how will senior software engineering change in 2025? And I think kind of this is the peak of peak into the future that you kind of.
I actually thought when I listened to when you said this is the peak. So maybe this is the peak for us as senior software engineers. And then we are over. Then it's done.
No, this is different peak. It's peak with double E. And how it actually should work, because the reason why I wanted Georgi to introduce 11 Labs, because in my eyes it's one of the kind of hottest, fastest growing current European startups. If you want to work for a hot tech, this is where you want to be. And I think part of the success of such a top tier startup is actually how do you work, how do you organize yourself within to kind of don't dwell on legacy structures that might slow you down. So that's why I think it's.
There is definitely a factor of like the company being new and small, and like right now the titles would slow us down, and we basically hire only senior people. So like there's no point in like defining senior basically. So if you're capable and you hit the bar with the code and all of that stuff, then you're hired. But we don't need to kind of separate the people based on title.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but that's what I'm thinking. For how long will it scale that way? Right.
We'll see.
How many engineers are there?
Engineers, I believe 60, and total people 120.
Mm-hmm.
But I have just to answer on this experiences from Netflix for many, many years. They had only senior, they call it one title, senior software engineer, nothing else. But to your point, 3 years ago, they turned to the job levels. So they had the hierarchy.
How many people did they have when they turned to job levels?
Close to 1,000 maybe.
Well, we have some time.
What I love, by the way, if I may, is this kind of treating everyone as just team member.
Uh-huh.
Right, and I don't mind seniority titles that much, but I'm not fan of treating people as back-end engineer, front-end engineer, database engineer, and such, right? Because then automatically this limits your flexibility, and it semi-automatically assigns certain work to certain people, and that's really harmful.
Thank you for that. I wanted to follow up with this exactly. I'm sorry. So far, we've talking about kind of the soft skills and impact of individual people, but how about technological spread of impact? Do you automatically expect software engineers would be skilled in multiple technologies, multiple languages? Should they be full stack? Is it important requirement, not important requirement? How do you see? Maybe since you said it, Jakub.
As I said before, I think there are many different types of senior engineers, or any kind of engineer per se, right? So I don't want to create narrow boundaries and try to fit everyone into a single. I don't want clones, right? So I can see place for someone who's really a specialist in certain technology and really kind of leading expert in that, and they can be hugely valuable. But at the same time, I will say that I think the majority of people, it works best if the majority of people are somewhat generalists and they understand the broad, stacks, or how to say it, and when they see a problem, they can instinctively tell how to best solve it, where to even make a change, to make the change the most efficient, performant, easy to make. So yes, to answer you, I think they should have the broad understanding. And one more thing, that doesn't mean they cannot have a stronger part, right? And I think they will always have a favorite stack or favorite technology, and so on. That's completely fine, but they shouldn't be oblivious to the rest of the world.
I hate to agree with Jakub, but I do. No, I think core of the companies right now is like full stack developers, right? You can build the full product, front end, back end. It doesn't matter. It doesn't have any bounds. And that's particularly useful when you're starting the company. And later on, you definitely need to add like some specialist. I say that because I'm front-end mostly special. But yeah, everyone in 11 Labs is full stack to some extent for sure.
Yeah, but maybe I can respond with an anecdote about actually you and your role. When you joined Pipedrive, you joined as a front-end engineer, and we knew that you are like a really domain expert front-end engineer. But the attitude was that we want to have more full-stack engineers. And at the beginning, I tried to convince everybody to kind of become full stack, and majority became. And you were the only one, I think, who resisted until the very end. And what it shows is what Jakub mentioned, kind of diversity. You don't need all the developers to fit the same description, the same role, as long as the kind of the whole makes sense and does the job.
Yeah, exactly. And I don't think you can be like really good in everything. So you will have something you're really good at. So for me, it's like if something is like off by 1 pixel, I'll see it. And the worst thing is if I don't see it, CEO will see it. He's like me, basically. So yeah, I think you basically shouldn't have a goal of like being generalist or not being generalist. It's up to you what you're good at, and that's what you should focus on.
Okay. David, at your level, do you care if you have full stack engineers or not?
Based on my research over the Christmas period and also recent talks I would really focus on hiring technical generalist problem solvers, right? With absolutely some domain knowledge in some areas. I would expect that you understand computer science, you understand databases, you have generic understanding how you can solve the problem, but to get specifically into the domain, if you are smart enough, if you are this smart technical generalist, you will figure out the way. And as we mentioned before, there will be so many tools and approaches how you can solve the things that you don't need to specialize. So I'm not sure if we should keep calling it full stack, because full stack is the kind of old school definition of I know some backend, I know some front end, maybe some app development, but the technical problem solver, I guess that's the future.
I think we don't need to call it anyhow, right?
Yeah.
We are calling we will with the new framework at Make everyone will become software engineer with some seniority designation.
Right.
But yeah.
All right. So, kind of to wrap up this level setting, question from Břetík. What's one unexpected non-technical skill every senior engineer should master? Unexpected one. Who should answer?
I have one example. It's not mine. It's from Juraj Masar from BetterStack. If you read his post on 100x engineer, the ability to descope your project, your feature by 20% and enable delivery by 80%, that's the skill. Be the partner to your product owners, to your business owners, and this is how you can really move the needle, really make a huge impact in the company.
I like that. Any other ideas?
What's the question? I was communicating non-verbally with the question asker.
The question was, what's the unexpected skill that senior engineers should master? Something you wouldn't think from top of your head.
Product skills. I think great software engineers are also great in the product, and they can spot opportunities, how to deliver product value cheaply, right? Which product improvement might seem very difficult at first glance, but maybe there is a technical way how it can be actually very cheap, and the good engineers will spot it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I kind of agree. Again, we don't have any product managers in a company at all. So like every engineer is basically expected to have some product sense and make product decisions at the end of the day. So everyone needs to go through kind of product interview or something in that sense. I would probably extend it to like understanding the user. You know, you can collect the data. Like software engineers, they're like super smart people, and it's super easy for them to like learn new skills and like go and query some data, find out something that you need to know. So that's probably like, you know, don't put limits on yourself.
Okay, I think this is nice pivot to kind of moving forward. Maybe with one controversial question. Do you think the future of software engineering, especially senior engineers, is actually there will be less and less and maybe none product managers? And maybe I'll actually add my experience and how I would contribute to this question. In my previous company, it was a really small startup, which was founded by a former product manager who was our CEO at that time, and he was acting as a product manager, but then there was none actually with this role. And of course, as a CEO, his time to contribute to product management, maybe 10-20% of his time, and everything else was picked up by either me or the software engineers. And at the end, each single software engineer was completely independent unit. They would be doing the work of a product manager, UX designer, UI designer, front-end developer, back-end developer, DevOps, everything, QA, everything in one package. And it was working really, really well. Of course, it was a small startup, small scope, but we were able to deliver so much more thanks to not having these handovers between different roles. So you kind of both said pretty much the same thing, that product management and the ability to speed up delivery was kind of the hidden, underrated skill for senior software engineers to master. Would you make this kind of assumption even further, that this will be the future, less product managers, more power to software engineers?
Who's the question for?
Whoever feels that they have the best answer.
Okay, I think, not sure about the best answer, but yeah, Linear is doing it, 11 Labs is doing it, and like some other small companies are doing it. That like you just hand over the product management to engineers.
I was listening to an interview with Linear person. I don't know his role, but
Yeah.
they just hired two product managers.
I know, yeah. Now they have it, but like they got very, very far without them, right? So at some point you probably need some kind of product owner. And it doesn't mean that you should fire all the product people, like your culture is set in some way, your people that you hired are set in some way. So it makes sense probably for your company. But yeah, I believe like software engineers are perfect problem solvers, and you can see it on dev tooling. Like we hate anything that is not like super comfortable. Like it gets into the realm of like Cursor, right? I know exactly what I want to program. I just need to tell Cursor what to do, and it's gonna do it for me. So yeah, I think software engineers, like their job is basically problem solving, and that's what they're really good at. So why not extend it to product management basically, and like designing the product?
I will disagree, because I can see this future, but I think it's quite unlikely, because because the requirements for how broad the engineers need to be are growing unreasonable, basically. So what I see is maybe not the opposite happening, but what I think might happen instead is that we will still need product managers in the equal numbers, let's say, but they will become more technical and they will be able to utilize all the tools for bootstrapping prototypes and such. And that's how the productivity increase will be achieved, right? And the same for designers, by the way, not just product managers.
Fair.
That's my guess.
Yeah, but I think like software engineers are it's a set of very capable people. Product managers, sometimes not.
Nice, challenge.
I'm sorry, but it is what it is. Like software engineers are really capable people usually.
But the thing is, the demand is super high for these highly capable software engineers, and I don't know if the supply is enough to, because 11 Labs is hot. Let's be honest. Not every company is so hot.
That's one thing. Yeah, you can't switch the whole company now.
Yeah.
Like it's gonna take some time, but those companies will take over those that don't kind of adopt this, I would say.
Maybe kind of the middle ground between you, so we don't leave it awkward. Is that actually not having product manager or having engineers capable of doing product management work gives you advantage, but there will be still world for foreseeable future with product managers. David.
We can make a quick poll. So if you raise your hands who are software engineers, doesn't matter. and keep your hands up if you truly understand the business domain, if you can manage the business. See, that's the reality today. And my answer to that is, or response to that is, it really depends on the business. I love technical companies because they can do exactly that. You just need, or with the engineering product or technical product, because you can hire engineers to solve the problem. And even the best thing is, if you are building product for your own, like I have some friends in Datadog, they just laugh to build the product because they are using it every day. They can sell it and monetize it. But on the other hand, if you are, for example, about a year ago, I visited this farm for tomatoes, like the hydroponic tomatoes. Those people don't understand don't understand software. They are working on this farm, and the software engineers that were building the software don't understand like all the kind of chemical details and the mixtures, how to put it. They had to explain each other how to make it grow. So I would say for a couple of months, maybe years, it will take some time so that software engineers can really immerse into the domains. And on the other hand, that can be the other flow is that when what I mentioned earlier, the product managers becoming the software engineers, given all the tools that are becoming really available. So I guess eventually it will merge, but we are not there yet. But I guess that's the future. And we really need to enable non-tech companies to do what you guys are experiencing, that you as an engineer can be the problem solver and build the product. Because if you enable that, the productivity will go through the roof.
That's all good points, good takes. There is interesting question from the audience about hiring. The question specifically says about kind of proportion between soft skills and hard skills when you are hiring senior software engineers today. But maybe I would expand it a little bit further. With all that we have said, what we expect from senior software engineers, how do you hire for them? How do you set up the interview process? What are the traits you are looking for, and maybe what are red flags that will disqualify the person? I would add an anecdote. You mentioned Betterstack and Jura Majsar, and in his last interview in a podcast, he said that his red flag is that he every time asks a security question at the beginning. And if the person fails to pass the security question, they end the interview. So that's kind of not even a red flag. That's stop right there. Like if they don't understand some basic, or I don't know how basic, but security principles. Any other thoughts on how are you hiring? Maybe Georgi, if you are interviewing for 11 Labs, how?
Yeah, I'm doing usually. So first round we're doing like a technical interview that. I guess something you can all imagine how that works. And then there is the second one, which is like product focused, whether it's architecture, design, product thinking, and all of that. And then there is a collaboration with the founders. And so obviously, if you don't pass the technical task in some way, then you're out. If I see that you're not going to pass the product interview, then you're out already. Like if I ask you on the first interview, would you make the button green or red? And you're going to say, I will ask project manager. Then you're not the right person, right? No one's going to tell you what color it should be. And then we have quite a lot of people like failing the founder calibration. So if there is not some spark or something like that, and you kind of see that they're not going to pass, then it would be a waste of time for everyone to continue.
Do you have any sense what are they asking or what are they after? Is it just a spark or feeling, or is it something
I would
specific?
say excellence.
Okay.
Is the word. So like it doesn't matter what it is like that you're doing. You don't have to be like super good in code or anything like that. But whatever you're good at, you need to be really good at.
All right. How about Mike? How do you hire senior software engineers?
Our process is very straightforward and simple. Maybe it can be improved, I don't know. But currently we just have a mostly technical task and then a discussion over the task to go over the solution, what can be better, why did you make this decision, and so on. And then a couple of culture rounds with a hiring manager, the manager of a manager, and then the whole team. And on these rounds, we always try to ask the questions that would tell us whether the person has these problem-solving skills. So the typical ones, like, what was the project you worked on, and then what was your contribution, right? What impact did you specifically make, and what were the, let's say, issues? How did you try to address them? And these sort of questions that try to uncover the proactiveness of the person. It works like you know how interviews are. It's a bit of a black magic, but it works relatively well. I think kind of the trade-off of simplicity versus good results is quite okay, I would say.
I think the question was not that much about the process itself, but about the evaluation criteria, like soft skills versus hard skills. How would you? How much emphasis do you put on both?
Okay, actually we are shifting. So traditionally we were checking for the knowledge of the specific technology that we use. We are shifting away from this. So I think that's a very good move. And in general, like I would say we are moving much more towards the soft skills or the cultural aspect, as I think the role itself requires more of that than before. Yeah. Right. I have one anecdote from one of my interviews for later, maybe, or
if it's shareable.
It is shareable. Yeah, it was. I was interviewing. It was when I was interviewing. Actually, I was interviewing for a Scottish company, and it was this quite old school way when you come to the office and you spend the whole day interviewing. And the last interview was a technical interview with a Scottish guy who was speaking very
Scottish.
Very Scottish, yeah, as much Scottish.
And no subtitles.
No subtitles. So you can imagine after 5 minutes I was sweating real hard. Like I was feeling embarrassed because I was constantly asking, like, can you repeat? Can you say it differently? And so on. So it was very bad, very, very bad experience. Well, but I was hired at the end, and I talked to him like, why do you, or I talked to the people, like, why do you put this guy on the interviews? And they were like, yeah, it's kind of by design. We want to see how the candidates react. I was like, I'm not sure I agree with this, but fair enough. Like it's a way.
All right, David, what's your take on soft skills?
There is a mix. At Rohlik, we put super focus on our ingredients or values, and specifically on the customer obsession. We are a customer obsessed company, as I hope you have experienced with Rohlik, and we are always looking for examples on demonstration. How did I amaze my customer? How did I went above and beyond to really make sure I understand what they need? And there can be many various ways how the candidate can demonstrate it. We are never compromising on our ingredients. We have actually kind of checklist that we checked on specific ingredients, and the candidate has to rate above the bar. Then we have the classic technical interview. I would call it these days like an orientation in the technologies. And for me specifically, if I'm part of the interview, I'm always trying to go 2 or 3 levels deep, or as far as I understand, because I'm always hoping that I won't be the technically smartest person in the room. And then we have also case study. So we are basically asking our candidates to work on some homework and then demonstrate it. And I believe seeing how the candidate work on the specific assignment, how they are able to present it, how they are able to present, I understood the problem, this is my solution to it, how they are able to defend their solution, that's really useful. And in my previous company, Shipong, we did also the on-site interview that we invited the candidates to basically spend a couple of hours working with us, and they were working on a specific assignment, and then we spent like 1 or 2 hours evaluation, and this was super useful not only for us to observe the candidate, but also for the candidate to give them opportunity to see how we work, how he behave, and I still remember once I went for the evaluation, and the candidate told me, really interesting company, but You seems to kind of go and meet way too much. And I remember the day we had a couple of meetings and we were running from one end company to another, and I was like, wow, that's really great reflection from the candidate. So as part of the interview, you really have to be also super careful about the candidate experience and make sure that it click on both ends. And spending a couple of hours together is really the best way from my perspective.
Maybe I would end this topic with my personal take on this one. Like your founders, Georgi at 11 Labs, I always try to put myself as kind of the first interviewer when I was hiring, especially for Pipedrive here, where we did a lot of interviews, a lot of hiring. I put myself as the first one there because the soft skills, kind of the cultural fit, was actually the most important aspect. There are a lot of good technical software engineers, but the cultural fit was especially important. And one of my first questions, which I thought was very easy and kind of no-brainer, how much do you know about Pipedrive already, and how do you like the product? This was kind of at the end the very best test for all the interview questions, because nobody recovered from this question if they said, I have no clue, I haven't looked up, I don't care about the product. Whenever they said this, it was not kind of a showstopper, but I don't remember anybody who didn't care about the product, about the business, who would have recovered, and we would have hired them at the end.
Oh yeah, that's a very big red flag. Like I haven't checked the product.
I just like the job title, so I like or the stack.
All right. So we talked about hiring. Let's move forward to the future. So imagine when you already are a senior software engineer, and we already touched some of the topics about where it might go into the future. But people who are here who want to learn something new, what should they start learning? What kind of skills, tools, anything you think will be important 1 year, 2 years from now to stay relevant and stay maybe on top of the curve? You are all nodding.
I can probably start. I would definitely recommend, I believe somebody mentioned it, like to really be able to be good at in one or more domains. So if you can really go deep and understand your business, your product, and really know inside out of it and how it's helping the customers, where you are creating the business value. Those are super important things. So that's the product part or the business part what we discussed. And the other part would be to really stay at the top or ahead of the game, because as all of you probably knows, the world is developing so fast. You don't know what will be the next big tooling. It won't be in next year, it will be next 6 months, it will be next week probably. So really be ahead of the game, experiment with the tooling, experiment with the ways how you can change the way of work, how you can deliver more for less time, and figure out these things, because if you are ahead of the game, you will be probably winning in the future. And I'm not sure, to our earlier points, if the future will be senior software engineer, but you will be the general troubleshooter or problem solver, and that's the winning path. I would be prepared for that personally.
I actually have an interesting anecdote from my personal experience. When I used to work at Skype long time ago, I was a software engineer, and I kind of built this reputation of being able to solve all the difficult bugs. So all the bugs from our issue tracker that were older than 6 months, 9 months, 12 months, they kind of ended up in my way at some point or another, and I hated it at the time. I would spend 5 days debugging and trying to fix one bug, which would at the end be just one line of code fix. But what I didn't realize that one year later, I was kind of the go-to I basically, thanks to these bugs, I understood the code, the whole application in and out, and I kind of became kind of the go-to person for this. And I started getting in more and more interesting projects, and at the end, this is what made me get a promotion and further progress my career. But it was kind of this really painful, maybe year or so, when I was kind of just getting deeper into the problem.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Did you introduce the bugs?
No, it wouldn't work because the filter was set whenever it's 6 months or older.
Well, you need to think long term.
Long-term investment, make it back for yourself.
If I can continue, right? So yeah, I would agree. I think if I were to be meta, I would say the seniors or in general
Meta, the company
engineers.
Meta.
No, meta in my answer. They should learn how to learn new things and how to adapt. And they should if they do things every time the same way, the engineers should drop this and learn how to experiment with different ways. That's one thing. And second thing is these non-technical skills. Talking with people, writing. It's so important to have good writing, because I think in the future, and already we see it, right? It's kind of easier to develop something and to build a product with all the tools out there and such. And it's more about deciding what you build, right? How you connect it with other parts of the systems and so on. So so I would say this kind of soft skills will be more important than ever.
All right. Georgi?
I would say like the product soft skills, sure. I would probably extend on like thinking about the business as a whole. So right at the end of the day, you're part of the company. Company is there to make money, and like your goal should be to make money, right? And that's by improving the product, maybe coming up with new, whatever it is. You should be very much invested in that problem.
Yeah, it's a really good one. How you can basically derive from the company objectives. What does it mean specifically to you? How can you move the needle? And if you crack this as a product manager or the engineer, you are really helping the company to get more customers, grow the revenue. And if there is the connection, you will really feel not only happy and successful in your role, but you will understand the purpose of your role. And that's super important why you get up every day and go to work.
But at the same time, it's like very open, right? Like you can spend 6 months refactoring something, and it could be a situation where it doesn't mean anything to the business, or it can be like deal or not deal, right? So it can be anything, but yeah, think about the business.
To connect to this, I'm really not a fan of when engineers tell me I just do what PM or EM or whoever tells me to do, right? I want engineers to know why they work on something, and even them decide most of the time what is important.
Let's do a quick poll.
Yeah.
How many people in the last month changed the scope of the product because you had a better way to solve something for the business? If you can raise your hand, if you change the feature in the favor of the business. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. See, I guess that's really important. It's hard, and for me, as I sometimes call myself the most known Czech fluctuant crossing many companies, to learn the new domain, it's very hard. But once you learn it and start contributing, it's so rewarding.
Yeah, my actually favorite approach to this, being working in large companies, small companies, I think you can help people to better align with the business domain by narrowing the scope. I think there is a kind of way of organizing the teams where you just put the right people, the right size of the team, on the right side of the problem. You kind of give them the general direction, and you let them figure out the solution for this. At Pipedrive, we used to call it missions. And I think if there are any kind of engineering managers, CTOs, anybody who can influence the way how work is developed, you can think about it this way. If you narrow down the scope, it can be overwhelming for people at first to kind of make business decisions, product decisions. But if you narrow down the scope, it's so much easier, and it builds up confidence with time. And it's also helped with scaling the startup mindset, the startup culture. If you kind of always keep the scope narrow of what people are working on, and you give them a lot of freedom to make their own decisions, you can keep this attitude and this ownership for a long time as the company grows.
That's actually a great analogy, like how you can learn that you are senior software engineer. They are not giving you specific assignments. You are given the context, solve this for the business, right? And if you are, as you said, if you are an engineering manager or CTOs, should be your approach to the engineers, to really encourage them to think, to figure out the solutions, and don't forget to give them time as well.
I have a good example of that, if I may. We are launching a mission very soon, and the goal is just improve the scalability of our platform 3 times, right? And we don't say anything else, and the engineers are smart, and they will figure it out.
So why you didn't say 10 times?
Yeah, thinking small.
Good idea. I don't know, why didn't we?
Next mission.
Yeah.
It kind of reminds me of this. Anyone read the Steve Jobs book?
I did.
Yeah.
I did as well.
Yeah, okay. But yeah, like back at the time, there was no software engineers or anything like that, right? They were creating first Macintosh, and he was kind of hiring capable people to do separate things on it, right? So somebody was in charge of calculator and so on. And like the key is like capable people. Like you give them problem and they will solve it, and that's it.
All right. I'm so proud of ourselves. We haven't used the buzzword AI yet, but I think it's time.
I have.
You have. You used Cursor. But in the age of AI, how should our senior software engineers think about educating themselves? What kind of how would you recommend them to stay systematically on top of the curve again? We talk about soft skills.
Yeah.
Now more stay relevant in the technology.
Yeah, what do you, like when you say systematically, I don't know, but what always worked for me and what I observe is that the best is just to try things and play with them, experiment. And I think that's still the best, right? So don't be afraid to use some of your work time to experiment with new tools, new technology. And then if something works, bring it to your daily workflow. Yeah.
I would say maybe not the best, but like the worst thing is that kind of introducing some boundaries, right? So a lot of companies, when like ChatGPT started and all of that, they were like, okay, we don't use that in our company, and you can't generate code with it, and we need to figure out the legal part of it. So in 11 Labs, that's the other way around, right? ChatGPT is like running on endpoints, checking something, returning something predictable. Like whatever you do, you just solve the problem. And like if you are able to do it better with AI, then do that. If you are a really good software engineer, but with Cursor you do stuff 3 times faster because you don't have to write it, then just go buy a license and the company will pay for it. So like don't put the boundaries and like let the people figure out what's the best for them.
I have one more insight about this. When you have senior software engineers and they start playing with Copilot or Cursor, opinion I've heard often is that it's good, but it's not good and fast as them. They spend more time revising the code than they would write it themselves, and they kind of stop using it. But where I think is kind of the most useful and relevant is when you are not senior in the technology that you are writing. So it's helpful when you are, let's say, backend engineer and you're supposed to write some JavaScript, some maybe React components. I think this is where it's most helpful. So kind of also stay vigilant to the use case you are trying to apply the technology for. And yeah, go ahead.
Well, even if that's true, I would argue they should still try it, right? And experiment with it and make their own opinion. Because I've heard, these opinions. Yeah, Copilot not useful. It's not speeding you up anyway. Have you tried it? No, I read it. Right? I don't think that's cool.
Yeah.
And if the company has boundaries, at least in my teams, then I'm fine with if engineers like spend company time on some personal projects, right, to try these things, experiment and learn that way, even if the company doesn't allow it on the official projects or company work.
If I may add, I would definitely add on the experimentation part, because as I mentioned, the technologies are coming every week, every 2 weeks, something's changing. and you need to stay ahead of the game, right? So that's one thing. The second thing I would, or what was my kind of approach to it, is don't think about it that the AI would replace you how you work today. It's not. And either you embrace how to leverage AI, maybe it will solve 20%, maybe 50% of your problems, but it will accelerate you somehow, right? And if you don't demand that, oh, it's not 100% solution, I'm not using it, I guess you can benefit hugely from it, but figure out the use case that where you want to use it. And the third thing is, and I read really interesting thesis about it, is I believe we are spending too much time focusing on optimizing the code and the programs for the humans. And the thesis was about how about we optimize the code for the machines, and then basically forgot that there is any code and really just use the interface, the training data sets and the prompts, and let machines in the future figure out how the problems will solve. You have to embrace that the results won't be deterministic and won't be predictable, but maybe it will be much more effective solutions to your problem. To me, the analogy is that when I got my electric car, everybody was laughing at me. But you cannot go from Zlin to Prague without charging. It's really not about with the electric car going from Zlin to Prague without charging. If you change the mindset that, okay, maybe I can go slower, listen to the podcast, learn something. Now these days I'm chatting with ChatGPT during my trips. I can have a coffee. Just change the mindset. Be open to figure out how you can actually embrace and involve this new technology into your life. It won't be the same as you're used to, but the world is not the same either.
That is really, really interesting question from the audience, which is currently upvoted, and I like it. It's very fits the topic. So we were talking a lot about soft parts, soft skills, focusing on soft skills, and the question is, I will quote: "Aren't you afraid you are possibly missing on some purely technical?" Somebody it disappeared. Becky to highlight the question. No, so I'll rephrase. Aren't you afraid that you will miss on some technical advancements following technical topics when we are focusing so much on soft skills and on software engineers doing non-technical work, non-purely technical work? So I assume it's coming from somebody who would like just to focus much more time on writing code and don't do any of this bullshit we talk about. What would you tell to the person who asked the questions and all the people who upvoted it?
Just quickly, sorry for jumping in. I believe we will, by definition, miss a lot because there are so many technologies, so much development. So even if you try to focus on everything, you will be missing something deep. So I don't think it's actually a problem. It's just this new reality, and depends what's really important for you, for your company, for your business. Just choose those technologies and the most effective way how to solve the problems. And it's perfectly fine to miss something.
And I understand the question, and I don't think we would miss this because we now expect also engineers to get better in soft skills, but we are not saying they don't need to also focus on the technical skills, right? So it's a bit of a dilemma I have because in my head at least the expectations are rising for the software engineers, and we want them to be multifunctional, very broad, understand technology, understand business, understand product. So I think it's still vital for most of the seniors to also keep somewhat track of how technology evolves, and be aware and be ready to use it. And maybe someone will tell me I'm completely unrealistic, and maybe it's a good discussion. But I think so.
Yeah. I think this is like. It differs for like more junior-ish people and senior people. And so when you look at, I don't know, YC companies or something like that comes out, and like you see the product, it kind of repeats itself, right? You're building the CRM for 100th time or something like that. So if you already know how to build CRM and you kind of can imagine building it from the ground up yourself, and I don't mean like all the details having figured out and some thinking or something like that, but you can imagine yourself building it from the ground up to some extent. Then maybe the code and like improving your code skills shouldn't be the main focus of yours. If not, maybe it is about the code.
So who should be writing all the code if senior software engineers are so much focused on kind of the bigger picture and connecting the dots and everything? Who is writing all the code?
Juniors?
Them.
No, I guess those are still senior software engineers, but they are 10x more productive. So they spend less time actually writing the code and more time really thinking about the problems.
Yeah, the question was also largely to Georgi and 11 Labs. When only senior software engineers.
No. I spent plenty of time writing code, trying most of the time. But in my case, it's in many cases either product analytics to some extent, or designing things, or whatever is that comes up.
Sorry, Kubo wanted to say something.
Yes, what did I want to say? Like sometimes the problem can be solved without code. Some, in experiment, prototype, POC, or with, crappy code that you write quickly. That's one thing. So there is, I think, less code to write, and you can write it quicker. I guess that's what I wanted to say. Yeah, but to answer the question directly, I think still, yes, seniors will write most of the code. And I said before, I was really making it up, but I think 50% of their time should go into code or above, at least 50%. And I think with this, that still gives them plenty of time to.
Yeah, that's where I was heading with the question. It may look like that we don't expect senior people to code. I think you said it the best, David, in my eyes, that kind of they, by better understanding of the problem, they find the better solution. I can speak from recent experience. You spend months building something because somebody told you to build this, but because you were not in touch with the stakeholders, you didn't understand the problem well. When you deploy it and they tested, they said, but we actually needed something different, and you wasted 2 months, and now you'll spend a couple of weeks more building the right thing. So maybe that's the answer, that by thinking in the bigger picture, spending more time understanding the requirements and the business, you will actually build the right thing at the first time.
Yep, totally agree. With the software engineers, it's like you can do all of those things, right? So you can come up with POC, deploy it, measure impact if it's like successful or not, figure out maybe with the designer like how to actually make it proper. Like you can do all of these things. So like it's not about not coding. It's just that you kind of expand your view of the things a bit.
A little bit related question, so I will skip the most upvoted one. I will ask the second most upvoted one. How will AI agents change the distribution of junior, mid-level, and senior engineers in the company? Do you see that shift in the next year or two already happening? What are your thoughts on this one?
It's actually a hard question.
Anyone want to start?
There has been a lot written about it, yeah, but I'm maybe not brave enough. Like I can guess here, but I think we need to be ready to have a really open mind, right, and see what really happens. And we can make some predictions here, but it's really just guesses and predictions. So I think it's if I go into this guessing category, I would say that it is possible that there would be fewer juniors when it comes to the proportion, and that some of the jobs would be replaced by the AI agents.
I would say it's more of a juniors have a cheat codes or something like that, right? So seniors know what to do, how to write it, let's say, and then juniors actually can do much more now because of using AI agents. And let's say it this way. So if I have a senior and I want him to like engage with the community, drive developer community, and like build some open source project, let's say, and I have two candidates. One is senior, never engaged with community, doesn't know how to do it, and so on. And then I have junior who maybe codes with cursor and like does okay job and it works, but is very like sociable, very active, and all of that. I would rather hire that person for that specific job.
Yeah, that's my take as well. I think that it's not that AI agents would replace juniors in large quantities. They actually give them path to become better really, really fast if they are smart in a way of using it. The same for mid-level, and I think it's kind of a message or notion for senior engineers as well. You kind of don't stay put on the same level with the fact, oh, I know how to write my code well. Also leverage kind of these technologies that maybe the younger generation will be using. Otherwise, you might become obsolete if you just focus on I'm a code monkey, I write code. Then you might become obsolete because the AI agents will replace kind of this aspect of your work, writing code. But understanding the business context, communication, everything, this is much harder to replace.
Yeah. I would maybe add to it that maybe the ratio would not change, but the total number of software engineers, junior, senior, middle, will just the total number will just keep shrinking. The current meaning of the software engineer that you are spending so much time actually writing the code, and it will really shift to this. Let's call it like this problem solver again. So it will be junior, mid-year, and senior problem solver, regardless of the technology. And we will only need those current traditional software engineers in fine-tuning some code, etc. Because think about it, a couple of years ago, or actually tens years ago, there was a pretty large community of people who could write in assembler. Anybody knows how to write in assembler these days? One? Okay, now it's more. And I've seen actually a production assembler code. It was maybe 5 years ago, and there was like a couple of engineers that were able to write it. So maybe the analogy is that the AI is another level of abstractions where we, as a software engineers, are moving to, and there will be only like this kind of fine tuners of this language that we are using today, like Java and stuff.
But we spent years like talking about like there not being enough engineers to fill up all the spots, and now we're talking about like you're losing your job because we don't need that many engineers. I think that's too quick. I think that whether you're senior or junior or whatever, you'll be fine. Like you shouldn't be worried.
Yeah, and what we will do, we will just produce more code, right? More output, more products, more everything.
I would be worried.
I agree.
If you want to stay on this path.
I agree. Seeing the logo of Make behind us, I promise this is not paid advertisement, but it's actually similar to this topic. So using AI agents to simplify your work is one thing. But there is also like big surge of these low-code, no-code tools. Basically, Make can replace a lot of software engineers by just using the drag-and-drop UI and built-in connectors. I've been using it myself. A lot of companies are using it. So that's kind of another aspect of using it. How important do you think it is for software engineers to understand these tools? Because many look at them, oh, these are tools for the peasants who don't know how to write code. But I myself actually learned that it can actually make me better by not having to write or deploy a whole new component or API. I can just use Make to connect the dots.
Totally, yeah. And I would maybe one small thing. We say that Make doesn't replace engineers or developers. It kind of empowers non-developers to achieve similar things as developers. And I think it's a great thing because then people who don't know how to code, they can innovate, experiment, build their businesses much quicker than if they had to hire engineer, pay them, wait for the results and such. So sorry, sidetrack. But to answer your question, I think it's very important also for engineers because it gives them this tool how in certain cases they don't have to write a single line of code that later has to be maintained, and everything, and they can solve the problem using the no-code solution. And maybe to prove, let's say, maybe one path is that they use the no-code solution to prove certain hypothesis, run an A/B test, whatever. If it's proven, then we write a robust solution. Perfect. It's really great.
You're welcome.
So on the make website, is it like somebody coded that contact form, or is it you just use some automation?
You need to write that guy standing over there.
Okay.
To ask him.
I would just add to it that for the software engineers, I would see it similar, like for prototyping or making your life easier. As somebody said, we are kind of lazy or we love working in the beautiful setups that it just works. So make and similar tools can definitely help it. But at the same time, I don't think these low-code tools are necessarily like the tool stacks for the current software engineers. There are new roles emerging. For example, we are now hiring for the business integrations engineers that will be actually leveraging these low-code platforms to solve the business problems. So it's a different types, different skill set of the problem solver. We are also hiring like AI prompt engineers. So these are new emerging roles, and this will be the new path how you can evolve the problem solving in the company. You don't need anymore to write kind of pretty robust Java code that you need to test, verify, deploy, and operate. You just do a couple of clicks for a simple problems. At the same time, I'm not sure if we are there yet with the current set of tools. Not sure if we can build a website that would be handling thousands of requests per second. Maybe that's still a little bit rough, but eventually we'll get there, and it won't be a problem for the low-codes platform either.
Actually, switching back to the basics or maybe simpler things, not fancy technological stuff. There is a question on the board. How do you share your vision and mission to the engineering so they use it as a North Star for scoping products the right way? I can maybe add some real problems to this question. Probably you all know it, but in my current role as a CTO, there are information that I get at the board level, then there is a C-level information being shared, which I need to share to the engineering managers and team leaders, and then there is kind of the information they need to share with the team. So I know it's really hard to kind of keep this conversation happening and making sure everybody's on the right level. Even in a smaller company as Mailstep is. What are your takes, approaches? Maybe you are at the most senior role here, so how do you make sure that the senior engineers have the right level of information?
So what I'm sharing when we are discussing like the North Star or the future is actually the business North Stars and the future, where we want to be, because we mentioned it a couple of times. Then for the engineers is to go and figure out how to basically get there. If we are now in, 5 markets, we want to be in 15 markets. If we are now operating, 10 fulfillment centers, and in the future we want to operate 50 fulfillment centers, you can make the projections. What does it mean for the infrastructure? You can make the projections about what part of the codes we need to split, decompose, refactor, or change completely. So I'm trying to stay at the scope of the business objectives rather than giving them prescriptions. You need to do this migration or you need to fix this part of code, because it's really up to the engineers to really understand the business problem so they can translate it into the technical programs. And of course, it's different levels. So I can have this discussion with my team, with their direct reports, and then we need to eventually translate it to the task, etc. But ideal team from my perspective is that you can have this conversation with anybody in your team to tell them, hey, it's million orders per hour or a day. and then let's figure out what we need to build.
Yeah, I think it's really easy for 11 ops because like kind of like you start from the business goals, right? You need to make that amount of money, like you need to build this or achieve these goals, and you kind of go down from there. And everyone is kind of involved in this process of like creating the KPIs or whatever that is in your company. And then obviously you don't go and don't just come up with stuff. It's some kind of a conversation, but yeah, you're basically very much involved in creating the roadmap yourself for yourself.
Yeah, well, add is, first of all, it's important to have a quite straightforward and well-formulated vision, mission, and North Star, because if it's convoluted, then it's very difficult to explain it or to share it. But once you have it, I think it would be a mistake to, let's say, rely only on CEO to share this with the whole company. I think it's a responsibility of every leader to take this vision and other things and translate it to how it applies to their organization. And that includes, obviously, engineering leaders. So that's what I try to do. And by translating it, you obviously make it more approachable and like more relevant and such. And then second thing is just kind of repeat. It's not enough to say it once, and I've made this mistake in the past. Say it once and assume it's been said so everyone knows.
But as I'm thinking about it now, it's still just the business North Star, because in engineering you are never done. You are always innovating, always optimizing, always pushing for adoption, newer technologies to move faster. And I remember this anecdote from my very good friend and former colleague. He was dating this girl, and he was constantly working. And one day she asked him, "Okay, so when are you will be finally done so we can go on the date?" And that's the question. That's the essence of engineering. You are never done. Either you are building product for some other companies and you are selling it, but if you're in the product engineering, it's never ending.
All right. I'm not sure if the discotheque with the lights is a message that we should be ending soon.
No.
Not it. So maybe this was on our bucket list of questions or topics we wanted to cover anyway, and it's also asked from the audience, kind of career progression for senior engineers. We kind of all know how it works now in maybe one type of companies. The only way to progress is to become a leader, manager, which is kind of a little bit old school. In a kind of bigger or more technically focused companies, there are a lot of like individual contributor roles. There are more senior staff level engineers, principal level engineers. So kind of these, I would say that these basic career progressions today are pretty well covered by other meetups or other topics. So I don't want to stay on this level. But how do you think the career model will change in the future? What will be the options 1, 2, 3, 4 years from now, maybe even further? A little bit covered it with how the role will evolve. But it's still asked there, so we probably didn't cover it well enough.
I think it's still going to be based on the impact you deliver, right? So the higher you progress on the career ladder, the more impact you need to deliver, bigger projects, more complex projects, more important projects for the company. And I think this is kind of reasonable metric to base the progression on. So I don't think it has to change.
I think it was always a theme, and it's not a new thing. That like as you progress, like you solve bigger and bigger problems, and at the end of it, or like once you become senior enough, you're the one that defines the problem, and not actually solving them. Like you need to figure out what the actual problem is, and then you can kind of figure it out, or someone else can figure it out. But yeah, I think that's the progression, kind of.
I didn't mean to spend my time on the cell phone, but I wanted to check what my ChatGPT will say, because we try to do something similar with career competency framework or career ladders, and realize we don't want to be like the kind of checklist company that will say, okay, if you do this, you are there, etc. So we actually took all the work that we did and we trained the model. So everybody can ask the model, okay, give me some of the example of the activities I should do as a junior front-end engineer to move to the senior. And there are actually pretty good answers. Now we are using it for generating the job ads and the job descriptions, etc. But it's all maybe guidance, right? It won't tell you, hey, you are at Rohlik, you are a senior backend engineer, go and fix this because this has the biggest impact. That's up to us and up to the leadership.
So with the career progression, maybe back to the people who actually want to write code because they really, really like it. And it's kind of their passion, and maybe they are antisocial, they are very introverted. They don't want to do these things to grow career. What do you think? What do you advise to these people? Kind of how should they maybe stay relevant? And the secondary question is: in your companies, in your teams, is there a bar? Is there a level where you don't need the engineer to grow? When you are happy to stay, they will stay for 10 years at the same level, same position, writing really good code, being really efficient, and you don't need to push them to grow and progress. So kind of combined question. I hope you get it.
So to answer your second part, at Make, with the new career framework, we make senior this kind of terminal level where it's completely fine if the engineer stay there. Yeah, and because we believe obviously seniors bring huge impact, so it's we don't push people to grow beyond seniors. Yeah, if they want to, they can, and we believe the IC path or how we have the IC path, individual contributor path, it lets them grow virtually like forever, or at least on the opportunities are equal as the management path. And I think it's very, very important to not push individual contributors into management if they want to grow professionally and deliver more. I think it's a big mistake that can happen.
Yeah, I agree, and that was my experience in all the companies, because the definition of senior engineer or senior whatever role should be that they are actually performing at the senior level and they are making the impact to the company. What's important though is to realize, and this is more for the managers, leaders, the CEOs of the company, to really reflect where the company grew, because the senior 2 years ago is not the same senior as today. And this is the way how even the senior engineer, if they are not progressing, they are moving forward. And if they are unable to move forward and to gain new skills and to improve, then they might not be relevant. They might become, they are senior now, but 2 years from now, they might be media. And that's a really important aspect. But yeah, 100% agree that if you are that senior, those should be the kind of capstone, the foundation of your team. And if somebody wants to grow, they can grow. If it's a managerial role, individual contributor role, that's perfectly fine. But yeah, senior is senior.
Yeah, we now introduced one new level on the IC path to facilitate this growth possibilities and make it clear that really there is always room to grow. And there is no one on that level yet.
That's the level.
But it's there. We call it just senior stuff.
See. But yeah, I can't comment on like when is it good to not grow anymore, because the company is like 2 years old. So like we haven't defined any of these rules. But I think like there is still room for like people that are only coding, doing hardcore, whatever it is. It might be like more tough for you in the future, but there is definitely a room for it, and you need to be really good. So you need to grow into that, like you know how to solve architectural whatever problems that your company is facing.
Maybe I can add my experience from Microsoft, which is probably the company with the best defined career model I've seen. You can grow as individual contributor up to a level which is called technical fellow. and it's on the level of senior vice president. So basically, you get the same money, same stock options, everything, or stocks as kind of the senior vice president, and you still don't have a single direct report. I think it's pretty cool.
I remember Bill Gates' technical fellow once sent me the email. It was his title, so that's the role.
That's the role. The author of .NET Framework was technical fellow when I was there. It's interesting. And on the other side, kind of the how did you call it? The stopgap level where you can afford to not grow anymore.
Terminal.
Yes. Is level 63, which is senior software engineer, and after that you are not expected to grow. You don't have to grow. On all the lower positions, if you don't get promoted within 5 years, it's a huge red flag, and you will most likely get fired. But after level 63, you don't have to anymore. So just an anecdote how it's working in some of the biggest companies. I think we should just switch. To the questions from the audience, and after that wrap up the panel. So actually, it's the most voted currently, so I will read it, even though I don't understand it. David, maybe you will. So, how will engineers gain experience if 70% of work is done by PMs? To Rohlik's representative.
Yeah. Great question. I don't have the answer. I just read it in the paper. It really resonated with me that might be the way. And as I was mentioning, maybe the path for the senior software engineers, there will be less of them, but there will still be people because we'll need people to figure out, new programming languages, new frameworks, etc. So they will have this path, but maybe we will need less of them. Maybe if you have this model that 70% is done by PMs, you effectively need only 1/3 of your seniors engineers. The rest of the work is done by them. So maybe that's the answer. But to be honest, I don't know. It was very kind of, as they said, food for thought, and just kind of how to think about it. But I have to say, I mean, if you can enable your product organization, then majority of them can come to the product meeting and demonstrate functional prototypes, how they envision the product will work, etc. And part of the code is done. Again, we don't have to think about it in the current model, but let's think about it in the future model, that it will be a totally different paradigm how we build and ship software.
Okay, thank you. I think we already covered the next questions, options ahead of seniors. There's a question about AI coding tools that our companies on the panel are using. We talked about Cursor, we talked about Copilot. Anything else on your mind? You mentioned you have your own ChatGPT agent that answers your career model questions.
Everybody can train that, right? But it's pretty cool. We uploaded all the documents, gifted a couple of prompts, and it's working now.
Anything else that you would add to this question?
Definitely using what I saw. We are not, again, as we talked a lot about experimentation, nothing is enforced. We are encouraging people to try new things, but most importantly, give us feedback, what was working and what use cases. Just to give you a few examples on the engineering productivity and QA. So Cursor, Copilots, we are using a lot. Now we will be testing Windsurf, if you have a chance to look into it. From the QA perspective, we wrote a bot that's orchestrating our automation testing, so you can actually in Slack write which test case you want to run, or if you want to schedule or orchestrate something. What was really super cool example my colleague did over the Christmas period, he used the Claude version that can actually scan or command the website. So he basically prompted Claude to go to the Rohlik, buy some potatoes and go to the checkout. There's protection. The Claude cannot do checkout because there are some security concerns. But it was all in prompt. We don't have to tell Claude where is the search bar, what are potatoes, which ones to solve. And so basically he instructed Claude, prompted to build this use case. Then it asking, hey, generate for me the test case in like a Word document or something that we can put it in our repository and generate me Selenium code. And it did all of that, and it was working. So it created a pull request for the QA automation engineer, and you are done. So such examples. And the business integrations team, They are experimenting a lot with the agentic platforms. We are using, I believe, Langflow recently. Lovable. We are playing a lot deep nodes extensions. I believe so. So based on this demand, we actually defocused or changed the focus of our engineering team to really build data platform that we can connect with as many tools as possible, so people can experiment and build this framework. And I believe we will have two development parts. One will be the traditional engineering that we need to improve the productivity by this tooling, but at the same time we need to build this platform for agents, because that's big part of the future, maybe the future.
Anything else?
I don't even know. If you want some tool, you can use company card to get it. So I know Cursor was one that so many people used it that we got some enterprise account or something like that. So I saw that, but other than that, I'm not sure what people are using. But obviously, we were building conversational AI agents. So it's in our documentation, it's in our internal wiki, right? All of these things, you can kind of go and ask most of the things from the conversational agent.
All right.
Actually, just one more example on the full stack engineers. So we have very good and proactive backend engineers, but we are not able to hire fast enough the front-end engineer. So I don't know exactly which one of the tool he used, but he generated himself the whole UI, and it's actually much more beautiful than our own handmade UI.
Actually, yeah, I remember this is not coding tool, but the premise of our founder of the previous company was that you will not need copywriters, you will not need marketing people, anything like that. So we were basically completely redesigning our landing pages and the complete copy using just ChatGPT, and it was producing such amazing results from business perspective. I mean, you asked to optimize for conversion of this aspect, that aspect, and it was so great. So this is not so much about coding, but about maybe enabling smart people who can do right prompts to achieve results in other domains, not only software engineering.
I would be a bit careful about this specific example, because it doesn't have the context of what is being searched for, what people want, right, and stuff like that. So it doesn't have the data. It's not in the training. The latest data is not in the training set. So a bit careful.
Yeah, and that was mostly an anecdote, but I feel this kind of topic is very important to our audience. So I will ask this question again. It's a little bit related to what we were talking about before, but clearly. Still some doubts here. So if we agree that we need more generalists in software engineering, do we believe or do you think it will hold in the future as well? With the coming of AI, wouldn't specialists be more important?
$1 million question.
But I'm not sure I see the logic kind of why AI would make specialists more important, right? Because I think, yeah,
I think the logic is that AI can do it. It can do it badly, right? And if you're a specialist, you can kind of do that one thing, but you can do it really well.
But that will change with each next generation of the model. They will be more capable. So I think my personal answer would be that generalists can kind of think out of the box, can prompt AI better, can work with all the available toolings. If you have the bigger overview, you can just combine all these tools for your and company's benefit.
Yeah, that's exactly my thinking. And also, if you are a generalist, if we use the word full stack, you are expert in backend and you have some front-end experience. Maybe with AI, it can enhance your poor front-end skills to be acceptable. Right, so I think AI kind of even enhances this push for more generalists, in my opinion.
I agree. A little bit different topic. Does your company have any organized programs for upskilling developers in soft skills? Soft skills specifically, not training programs for technologies, other things, but soft skills.
This is not a question for me, I guess.
We have a couple of trainings, especially for people leaders, but I think everyone can sign up. And then we have newly introduced mentoring program where you can get mentoring on, like you can find a mentor and they can mentor you in anything you want, including soft skills. And then we have a learning budget, so you can spend it on something soft skills related, which is great. People use it a lot, a bit to my surprise, like positive surprise, I would say. And then, there is a hugely popular speaker workshop we are running at Make, and a lot of people attend, and it's had some good results. So yeah, quite a lot actually. I'm happy.
We have more of like an ad hoc, and if people ask or if they discuss with the manager, they need to improve something. So we have some kind of paid programs, like outsourced to even external companies or mentors. And I don't think we are providing anything like broadly for all developers to go through. And I guess it's a pretty good idea to start something.
I wouldn't force people to attend, but I think having it available is good.
Yeah.
Okay. I might add some experience from my part. Whenever somebody wanted to grow or they explain the interest to grow their soft skills, or they receive the feedback they should grow their soft skills, which was more often actually, I would kind of give them or think together with them what would be kind of the next minimum step, like take baby steps. Maybe take somebody as a trainee. Try to train a junior developer that's super important, super heavy on soft skills. Maybe do a presentation for a team, pick a topic, do a presentation for a small team, so it's not overwhelming. Like
100% agree, and that's what I'm a big believer in, that if you want to learn something, then do it. But again, you need to support the team or your leaders to do something. So, for example, when we are doing the goal setting, I'm always trying to, if it's about like gaining some new soft skills, to really be clear what is the expected output once you gain the skill. What is the output that we can? Okay, now you did it really successfully. So I don't know if it's a presentation of the new technology in front of the whole engineering team, or if it's being tech lead on the mission, something like really specific to be able to demonstrate that you successfully gained the skill.
I agree, and I think we are kind of already talking for an hour and a half, and I think I can smell food. So maybe time for one last question. I think it's a good one to finish this discussion. How do you keep your engineers motivated, support their proactivity? Now I lost it. Support their proactivity and curiosity and willingness to go beyond what is expected. I like this question for the end, because we are talking about people being self-driven, self-motivated. How do you think our companies can extend the self, or inspire this, or spark this self-motivation further?
Stock options. No, on a more serious note, I think for us it's not really a problem. You kind of hire people that are already in that mindset. So I wouldn't know how to kind of motivate the people from the top of my head. But yeah, everyone is kind of, you hire the people that are already like set in that direction of I want to make this big, right? And then it's super easy to because you don't have to motivate them, and everyone is kind of going in the same direction.
But you can always kill the motivation. So maybe the answer can be, don't hire people who are like this, and then let them kind of perform, right? Let them work on important things, let them work on interesting things. Don't fill their calendar with useless meetings and these sort of things. And I think it's a big part of the leader's job to achieve this. So we can go on, right? So the leader needs to explain the the meaning behind the work, so that the engineers understand that what they work on is important. The leader needs to give them space to experiment, to learn, so that they feel the progression. And many things. But I would say it's one of the main jobs of the leader, if not the main one.
I think impact is like super important. Like once you see you have impact yourself, unless something's wrong with you, you should be motivated, right? If it's working, then it's working.
Yeah. For me, it's I would say really. We mentioned it before. Like explain them the context. What is the purpose? Why it's really important? What they are working on. Be there with them. Open their eyes that the solution could be much broader or much more narrow. Depends on the problem, and really try to navigate them. Celebrate the success with them. Really, either kind of you can even reward them or something, but just simply coming there, and sometimes they don't even realize it, and saying, "Hey, this is the feedback from the customer, and they really enjoyed it, and you did it." It's really huge, and you don't need to actually spend any money on it. Or just simply ask them, "What are you working on today?" And they will tell you something. And then I love to share the story that, "Oh, you are working on this? That's actually super important. We just talked about this at the board meeting, and we can't wait for this feature." And make the connection there, if the connection is not already there. And there is really important part about the curiosity. I guess you really need to somehow push people to be curious, to dive deeper, to maybe intentionally do not share all the detail, let them figure them out. Also role model, like to show them, "Hey, there was this interesting feedback from the customer, and I don't know why exactly is this happening. So let's go a little bit deeper into that. What happened? What could be the problem?" It's typical in the founder's mode that you care simply about everything. Why is not everything perfect? And then you are curious. And maybe you will find out that there is some poor testing procedure. Could be simple as that.
All right. There's one word that's kind of popping out in my mind after listening to you. I think my answer to this would be empower them. Empower people to kind of make change, make a difference, participate on finding the solution, on delivering it, and then celebrate the success after they kind of figure it out themselves. That goes a long way. So with this, I would finish everything, finish this panel, and go home. We'll keep the food.
Use the word terminal.
Terminal, yes. And thank you very much for your patience, for your questions, and I hope it fulfilled the purpose. You learned something, and let's mingle around and talk some more. Thank you.
Thank you.